The Federation of Real Estate is under attack. Seals are holding up, but this battle in 2019, it's unpredictable. Captain to the ship, we need to evacuate. Captain's personal log, stardate 48002.7. Starship Talos is docked in a repair station orbiting the Earth. It's undergoing its final repairs following the battle. We won that battle, but the war is ongoing. I'm enjoying some brief moments of peace and calm on Earth before I assume command once again. But I can't help wondering, what the future holds for real estate. Go ahead.
Captain, you're expected to provide your scheduled briefing.
Acknowledge number one. Transport me directly into my ready room. Batakis out. Great. I can see that all repairs are proceeding as scheduled. Time for our briefing, so greetings. Last week, I found myself in a very interesting conversation that inevitably turned into economy and real estate and so on, and of course the housing market. Now, the other party in this discussion expressed the perspective that there are many people in Toronto seeing themselves as millionaires. Their belief is based upon the notion that since they own a residence, that it's worth now or has a market value of more than $1 million, they are millionaires. Now, I found this really intriguing in a sense because it was actually connected to what is called... So the wealth effect is what people actually perceive as their status regarding in things that are related to what they actually own or hold in their possession. So, without wanting to get into a Star Trek type of terminology, like referring to econometric data that are relating to the definitions and variations of wealth, I will speak in more plain English. Wealth is can be simply defined, let's say, and as a combination of human wealth and non-human wealth. Now, human wealth is what we actually generate as persons. It basically focuses on our disposable income. Non-human wealth are things that have specific value, such as the stock market wealth, so basically the stocks that we actually own, or the property that we own. Okay, now here where it gets really interesting, and let's try to connect the dots and see how all this makes sense. When my friend was saying that people in Toronto perceive themselves as millionaires, he unknowingly actually referred to the wealth effect. And research has actually shown that people, when they feel safe, and they feel safe when they know that their property is actually worth a significant amount of money, and that it gets that price and that value increases time over time, just like we've been seeing, for example, up to recent years in Toronto, that every year properties were worth more and more. And even in 2018, as you saw, within the city of Toronto, the actual average price was actually up by 2.2% compared to 2017. So no matter if, and this is where it gets actually quite intriguing from a psychology and perception point of view, research has indicated that no matter if our disposable income, our actual disposable income goes up, the moment that we find out that the property that we own has a greater value now than before, we automatically feel more inclined and comfortable with increasing our spending as consumers because we feel richer. Not because our salary went up or our income from our business went up, but because the price of our property is now up. Remember how I said that stocks are also considered as part of our wealth? Now, stocks don't have the same effect. So why, you will ask? The reason is that stocks are actually held by a much smaller percentage of people compared to the people that own property, and also people that own stocks are accustomed to the up and downs of the stock market, so they're not inclined of considering themselves richer immediately because their stocks went up. Unlike the housing market, where that effect is more permanent or more intense. Now, why would you actually care about the wealth effect? And why would it interest you if you're an owner of a property that maybe is thinking of selling or a buyer of a property? Let's take a step back and think about how this circle works, because it's all a circle. So we are here and we believe that our property value has gone up. Our disposable income, our salary, our business income hasn't changed, yet we increase our spending. Now, when we increase our spending as consumers, the economy is moving, right? Businesses are making more money, so the economy grows. Now, the moment that we start perceiving that our property value is gone down, we start controlling our spending more. Now, remember, we learn or we perceive that the value of our property has gone down, and we start reducing our spending no matter if our disposable income is actually exactly the same. Now, when we all reduce our spending, guess what happens? The economy growth goes down as well. And then, believe it or not, because all is a circle, the fact that the economy is going down is putting more pressure on the prices of the properties themselves, which go further down. It's what I would call a vicious circle. And it's all based on perception and psychology up to a point, as you realize. However, the opportunity of the general climate, and this is how a negative thing can turn into a positive thing, for you, if you are a buyer, the positive thing is that by getting the proper advice by a real estate professional, when you're looking for a property, they can identify the pockets where prices within even the city of Toronto or the suburbs have actually gone down. So this is an area where you have an opportunity now as a buyer to purchase a property, to have more affordable properties compared to before. Now let's take this now from the perspective of the actual seller. As a seller, what matters is, and going back to the wealth effect and the perception of wealth, what matters is that if you have been thinking that the value of your property is sort of your, or at least part of your retirement plan, meaning that, you've seen how your property value has gone up and up during the past 10 years. It's actually gone up about 100% compared to 10 years ago in Toronto. So you may consider, I was planning on retiring between 2017 and 2020. So since my property is valued much more than ever before, and I've paid off most of my mortgage, so maybe there is like another 100,000 or 200,000 I need to pay off, by selling my property and taking the average in Toronto, which is like 800,000 or 900. Actually, sorry, the average in GTA is at between 700 and 800, but the actual in Toronto is more than $1 million. So if you owe 200,000 and you have $1 million plus property value, you're saying, I'm gonna sell it, and here I go, I'm set for my retirement, or at least I can do what I want with the money that I'm gonna get from the sale of my home. Now, reminding you of the circle, timing is of essence. And yet, we may not have a crystal ball to see what the future holds. By getting the proper advice, you as a seller, you can see when the right timing is for the sale of your property according to what's going on in your micro market, in your local area and neighborhood. In both cases, regarding the wealth effect and in regards on what it can do for you as a buyer or a seller, timing can be of essence. Delaying a decision or making a decision too early can have a significant impact on the gain that you will have whether you're buying or selling a property. And since I've done these past two videos and you probably realize that I am a Star Trek fan and it's been 15 years since Star Trek has ever begun, I will leave you with a philosophical notion. Despite the fact that wealth is measured, of course, in money primarily, Nietzsche, one of our modern and beloved philosophers, said, "The rich people of our time are actually the poorer among us," which implies that real wealth, it's not necessarily regarded or estimated or measured in money. Real wealth can be education, can be life experiences, can be culture, can be a number of things. So despite the fact, of course, that generally speaking, we all need money and things of value and investments in order to survive and create the, how do I define it? The part of wealth that it's actually apt and practical. There is also the aspect of intellectual wealth, which relates to food for the mind and the soul. So with this in mind, I will leave you for today's show, which was a two-part special devoted to one of the legends of science fiction, Star Trek. Take care, and I'll see you next week here on planet Earth.